Welcome to Zoo Nation, where we bring you tomorrow's news today and where we talk about history as it unfolds. My name is Josh.
I'm Nathan.
And we're here to talk to you about mainly three big stories, but we're going to begin with a fourth one that's just a small minor story regarding the governor candidate of California. He didn't actually win in the recall effort, but Larry Elder is what we'll be beginning this by talking about, then moving on, talking about the radical LGBTQ agenda and what needs to happen, what's going on currently, and moving on to the omnibus bill and the Republicans that have voted, and of course the lack of leadership as far as following up on Republicans that betrayed their constituency and voted for a gigantic government spending bill. So to begin with, although I didn't know this at the time because I mainly actually saw a tweet. It was actually Larry Elder's Twitter. He tweeted on Christmas Day, hashtag Elder 2024 with two photos with him holding up a t-shirt. The back of the t-shirt saying taking our country back, and the back of the shirt saying with an American flag, Elder 2024. So the question is, for what? I mean, you actually asked, would it be governor or what exactly? I don't know. See, he says that, and the only reason I don't think it's governor or some kind of a congressional office is because I found this article, which is through Fox 11. Larry Elder says there's a strong possibility he runs for president. This was December the 17th, 2022. Larry Elder said that there's a strong possibility he runs for president of the United States in 2024. He's already visited Iowa and New Hampshire and met with potential donors. During an interview with The Issue with Alex Michelson, Elder admitted he's thinking about running for the GOP nomination. He's testing out a message that emphasizes the economy, energy, and border issues. Elder said he talked a lot about family values and the importance of fathers having an active role in their children's lives. It's the number one issue facing America, he said. So it sounded like with this post on Christmas, this tweet, that he's saying, yes, I'm doing this. Now, I did a little bit of research. That was the first one I looked at, was the one that came up by Fox. So I'm not seeing a formal announcement. I'm not seeing a speech of him saying, yes, I announced my candidacy, but it's looking like this guy's running. And the thing that came out of my mouth was, good, I like him. The only thing is, I don't know, even what I just read is more than what I kind of knew what his emphasis would be. So immigration and energy is what I'm mainly seeing. Yeah. And so we'll see what else he decides to run on. Because one thing that's important is culture in this country. In fact, cultural issues arguably are becoming more and more and more important. I mean, jobs are important for sure. The economy, 100%. That was the first thing. Economy, 100%. And then energy, and then immigration. Those things are important for sure. But cultural issues are very important right now because the left and the right have such differences in culture. Yep. It comes down to what kind of a country do we want. And you had said, and we might explore this just a little bit, that it was unlikely that he would get it. What do you think his biggest obstacles are?
Well, one, he's running up against Trump. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's probably your biggest obstacle. Two, I mean, he did decent, I guess, in California when he ran for governor. With the I almost said recount.
Recall.
Yeah, recall. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. With the recall, I mean, he did decent. I mean, I never really had like hopes for him as far as like, well, I mean, I had hopes, but I never like was like, yeah, he's got a chance. No, it's California. Like, no, he doesn't.
They call it Commufornia for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. So I don't know. Just the biggest thing for me is I think he's up against Trump. You know, so that's a big thing. Also,
you don't think Liz Cheney will take him out?
Oh yeah, totally right. The next,
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, next Abraham Lincoln. Right. Boy, oh boy, I hope she runs just to have so many memes. That's amazing.
I will. Every time she gives a speech, I'm going to say, this is your Emancipation Proclamation. This is your Gettysburg Address. I would actually go, I'm a tall guy, I would go and get rid of this and have just this and say, I endorse her campaign.
This is what happens when Abraham Lincoln goes through a gender change. Right, exactly.
That's even better.
Yeah, like, oh man.
Liz, please don't go to any movie theaters.
Yeah. Gracious, man. Oh boy.
Very open-minded person, though.
Right. I don't know. I mean, He's good. He is a good candidate. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed. But can he? I honestly, I think the biggest one is, I don't know. I mean, those like you said, those are great things hearing from the immigration, the fatherlessness. I mean, I like that. Honestly, that's really good. I mean, that's a fatherless homes and all that. Just the role of the father in the household is a very important thing. So I mean, I agree with that just based off hearing that, not even hearing like the details of that. I mean, I agree with that statement as is. So it's good to know that some of these things he's got, like the cultural stuff and just some of the details of things down. But there's still some more. So I think that's the lack of knowledge thus far is like a hurdle that he's got to get over. But of course, in the debates they should cover most of this. But yeah, so I don't know, but definitely the biggest hurdle is getting over Trump. And is he gonna be able to? Because how Trump likes to play that attack game. Is he going to be able to also play the attack game? Unlike, for example, I liked Ben Carson at the time. Ben Carson didn't play the attack. He was a soft-spoken guy. Larry Elder isn't as soft-spoken, but he's also not like a crazy, just out there guy. So I don't know if he's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Trump or just anybody on the debate stage, honestly.
He may be, well, and it depends on who's on the debate stage.
Right,
I was telling you in the prep for this that I think it's going to be a lot of the cast of characters from 2016.
Right.
I do think Christie will come back. I do think Cruz is really thinking about it. He's probably trying to calculate, do I try or do I not try? Yeah. And I don't know about Rand Paul. I find Rand Paul unlikely. I think he's probably going to just stay in the Senate and do what he does best. And that's probably good because
I don't for a vice president.
I would like Rand to be either president or vice president. We'll see. He's got to play his game right, though, because he's great on several issues.
100%.
I like him. So we'll see what happens as far as that goes. But it's just going to be interesting to see who decides to throw their hat in the ring. It's probably also going to be some other people we have not heard of. Liz Cheney, to be honest, before her confrontations with Trump supporters and other Republicans that are actually the good ones in the Senate and the House, I didn't even know who she was. I was like, oh, yeah, I know who. I didn't know that Dick even had a daughter. And I was like, oh, okay, well, cool. So, but other than that, I don't think she pulls above 1%, honestly.
No,
because the problem is, here's the thing. I've said this before. A lot of Republicans have left the Republican Party, like the so-called Republicans that call themselves
RNC.
Yeah. But a lot of them, there's still a decent amount of people that are too close to the middle. That's true. But a lot of them have left. They said, whatever, the standard line, oh, it's a pro-Putin party. Oh, it's a January 6th party. Oh, it's a Russian collusion party. And they've left the party. They're now either Democrat or Green or Independent or who knows where they went. Under a rock in the road, who knows where they went.
Who knows?
But anyway, that said, the ones that are left will vote for her, but like I say, 1%. It's going to be so small. And here's the thing, though. Regardless of what happens, the run in 2024 is going to be interesting because if these cast of characters run, those that are left may say, not Cheney, we're going with Christie or Rubio. If Rubio runs, I do think Rubio will probably try to give it a shot. Will they try to unite behind him, or will they divide against Cheney and Rubio?
Right.
And then the question is, the people that are not for that, the people that are more MAGA, is DeSantis going to run? And if so, that'll split them between most likely it'll split them between DeSantis and Trump. And if there's more, if Cruz runs too, that's 3 ways. Yeah. If Rand Paul runs too, that's 4 ways. Things get narrower and narrower,
which is dangerous and bad.
And you could end up with a globalist or just a sellout and a big donor class type candidate that's all about the RNC and the establishment, and that could be what happens. I mean, the Republican Party has gone that way before. They could have gone with Robertson. They didn't. They went with Bush, and they ended up with Clinton. Yeah. So, I mean, and now there's a whole thing about Perot, but Perot probably wouldn't have run if it hadn't been for how bad Clinton and Bush both were. Right. So, who knows what direction this is going to go. It's going to be interesting 2024 no matter what. One thing that I mentioned regarding culture is I haven't heard him really say, although I'd be kind of surprised if he had a bad stance on this, where he is with the LGBTQ agenda. Because some people that are more libertarian are more hands-off, like basically let that do whatever it's going to do. And some that are more on the right-wing or conservative side would say we're stridently against gay marriage and trans rights, and we don't They're not, totalitarian, but they're not for that,
Right,
and they're
of course.
upfront about that. And it may be that he's kind of in the middle where he says, well, I'm personally against it, but from a governmental level, I think we should leave it as is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I was saying this also in the prep, even if we try to be somewhat hands-off, the status quo is still unacceptable.
Oh, yeah.
We can't say, well, things can't get any better than they are. They totally can. And if you doubt...
They can get worse, they can get better.
Yeah, and if you doubt that, one big headline was from Fox.com. Knoxville mayor criticized for attending all ages, that's all ALL, Christmas drag show with exposed bee-holes and sex acts. The Christmas show had toured to dozens of U.S. cities. The mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, a Democrat, drew outrage after... Yeah, right. After... not necessarily. Could be a Republican in this day and time.
Yeah, this is true.
As messed up as it is.
This is true.
He drew outrage after boast... Oh, sorry, it's a woman. She... Well, is it a woman or is it a man?
I don't know.
It's a Democrat, so who knows?
Don't assume.
Right?
Don't assume.
Who knows? You don't know until abortion rights come out. I'm a proud woman.
Yes.
And from that point onward, it's like, okay, you're a proud woman. But before that, well... I mean, what is a woman? What's gender? We don't know. This mayor drew outrage after she boasted attending a drag queen Christmas show, which that's such an abomination. Christmas show, a drag show, Thursday evening, so 2 days before Christmas Eve. Democrat Mayor Inja Cannon shared on Facebook a picture of herself in the audience with the caption, "So glad to be at a drag queen Christmas with so many merry Knoxville folks. It's going to be a festive night. Hashtag Knoxville for all." And to be honest, the thing is, right, this is not shocking.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Don't Epstein yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be this. But, but anyway, don't Clinton yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
Twice.
Yeah.
How'd that person kill themselves in the head, shoot themselves in the head twice?
Yeah.
Definitely was not to do with the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is not shocking. The only thing that is shocking is that people are actually talking about it. The part that actually is surprising is they literally up front are saying all ages. Usually that's hidden. Usually it's like, oh, it comes out, was that a little kid?
Yeah.
But usually they don't say up front, oh, it's all ages. But they did. And this is what's crazy is you and I were saying this in the prep. What is the role? This is the way I see it. It's almost like consecutive circles. You've got circles that go out further and further, kind of like a target.
Yeah.
You've got the individual.
Right.
You've got a family. You've
Right.
got kind of like a community. I would put churches or synagogues or whatever in there as well. Then you've got the state, meaning like the state government, or arguably with community, you've also got like the county, like
Right.
Greenville County or Anderson County or Spartanburg
Right.
County. But then further out, you've got the state, so the state of Texas, the state of South Carolina, the state of Florida, and then you've got the country, the nation. And so it comes down to, for everything that I just mentioned, what is the role when it comes to combating the LGBTQ agenda? And it's hard because it's like, on the one, it comes down to, well, what kind of a society do you want? And it's difficult in addition because it's like, I don't want the SWAT team to show up at a regular drag show, just a regular drag show, and just start throwing people. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
In quotes, regular.
Yeah.
Normal. You know, as degenerate as it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying drag show without the
Right,
all
of
ages.
course.
The
Yeah,
all,
without kids.
right.
Right.
I don't want a SWAT team to show up and just put those people
No.
into jail and
Right.
treat them the way they've been treating the January 6ers. I don't
Right.
want that. I don't want them to be, rounded up or anything
No,
like that.
100%.
At the same time, I don't think it's a stretch to say that all ages drag shows on Christmas, no less, or any time, are not acceptable. That's
Yeah.
not a stretch. That's easy to say.
No, 100%.
And the question is, okay, Josh, okay, Nathan, what do you do about it?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to pose that question to you. What do you think should be done? Because to me, the problem is, if you're saying you can't do that, it's again, what you're basically saying is the government should have some kind of a say.
Yeah.
And the question is, okay, there's certain things the government should have a say in. If
of
you
course.
are putting cigarettes out on your child's forehead, I think that you should lose the rights to that kid.
Yeah.
And I think
Need
there's
somebody else to step in there.
yeah,
Yeah, of course.
someone. And preferably it would be, preferably it would be the mom goes to her father,
Yeah.
and the grandpa comes and kicks the guy's
Exactly.
head in. But if it's not that, then I do think there's a role for the sheriff to get involved.
Exactly.
And if that fails, then the state government
Right,
can get involved. And
DSS,
if
stuff like that.
fails, then someone above them, their pay
Right.
grade.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, what do you do about this? And the big question is, the question I'm posing is, where do you draw that line?
Yeah.
Is what it is. And it's hard.
I mean, first step for me is like, you know, sure, I'd love to see these things in general be put to a stop, but at the same point, just because like this is not normal, not okay to me in general, you know. But hey, let's just, you know, the libertarian side. If you want to be stupid, do that on your own time. Just don't involve me and don't touch my kids, and in this case, other kids. So like and even before you got the government involved, I guess, is like most of these things take places at like bars or like little venues and stuff like that. Not little, they're pretty big, which is sad too. But the bars and places need to say, look, 18 and up only, or like in my opinion, 21 and up only. You know, since you know most of these places are gonna have alcohol too. You can't drink until you're 21. So hey, 21 and up only. That's it. So you know you don't need minors here. And you don't need, and from a psychological perspective, you don't need people that are under the age of 21. Honestly, you don't even need 21-year-olds there. So yeah, but so that could be honestly a first step, but honestly, they're not going to do that anyway because you know money. You know, so money. What makes the world turn? Money. Honestly, well, God, clearly, but you get what I'm going with that. But no, so like from a state level, I'd like to see the states just say, hey, look, you know, you can do these things. Again, you want to be stupid on your own level, fine, do that. But you can't involve kids. You know, you just can't. You can't bring. No child needs to be here. Minors don't need to be here. So, my age is 21. Fine. I guess I would settle for 18, but 21. You know, so like, you can't go to a drag show unless you are 21, or you know, if we have to, fine, 18. You know, I mean, since you can vote, I guess. So since you can vote, you know, hey, you can go. But no, again, yeah, sure, it's your child. I get it, but you're affecting. When you have 7, 8-year-old, 10-year-olds, you know, continue on up, continue on down, whatever. When you have children that are still developing, it's not okay for them to see something that's unnatural. You know, people on the left want to use, well, the animal kingdom, they do homosexual things all the time. Okay, cool. That's not an argument, but let's use that argument for a minute. Nowhere in the animal kingdom does the other animal, you know, decide to parade around as another gender or anything like that just for a show. You know, that's not how that works. So it's not natural in the animal kingdom, if you want to use that argument, leftists.
You don't see the male turkey like pulling its tail through a fence so as no big tail feathers to stop looking like a male turkey.
Exactly, because one, there's no point to it. Yeah, and two, it's not natural. You know, so we don't need minors and children that are still developing to see stuff that's not natural. Now, again, you can make the argument, well, they see stuff that's not natural at home all the time. Okay, yeah, well, that's a problem within itself, too. You know, I mean, if you have an over-abusive alcoholic father, again, the state does step in with stuff like that. You know, there are things that are not natural that a child does not need to see. And if they go to an extent, the state does step in. This is something that I believe that the state needs to step in. You should not take your child to stuff like this, especially because this stuff, you've had drag queens that have told you this is not family friendly stuff. You see pornographic stuff. You see nudity. You see, yeah. I mean, seriously, you see drinking.
It says buttholes and sex acts.
Yes, pornographic stuff. I mean, it's not okay. You know, this is not okay, and this is child abuse. I mean, again, and especially when you have people that partake in the art, whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it. Performance, whatever. I don't know. Yeah. That have even came out and said, not for this specific one, but there have been drag queens before that have come out and said, this is not okay for children. You should not bring your children to this. You know, I agree. Yeah, you shouldn't. You know, not just because I think it's disgusting, but it's not for children because of the things that they can see there and will see at these things because it's not for children. This messes up their development. This is not okay or natural to see at that age. It's not, in fact, it's not natural to see in the everyday world. You know,
Right.
this is why they go to bars and in these secluded areas at night and everything.
Well,
you know, it's not a natural thing.
Yes, and the thing about that is, I do think there's going to be, and when you see this is a huge event. It doesn't look like it's some secluded bar. I say that to say, there's going to be an effort in all our culture, whether Western civilization or specifically the United States, to say, well, you shouldn't have to go to a secluded bar. You should be able to go wherever you want. And there's already efforts like that.
100%.
And like you say, the thing is, right, I think that there should be, this is something where, again, I count it as abuse to take a kid to something like this.
Right.
That's A. And B, I think it is abusive, and it should go without saying, but it's kind of in the same vein. The reason I'm not okay with this is also why I'm not okay with parents showing their children pornography.
Right, exactly.
It's like, few people, I'd be hard-pressed to find any, although they're out there, would say, you know what, if you want to show some XXX rated film to a child, go ahead. Almost everyone would say, no, don't do that. They are called adult films for a reason.
Exactly.
Now, again, I'm not for adults viewing them either.
No, yeah.
But if you're talking about something being legally permissible to purchase, that's one thing. I'm not happy with that either because it's a sin issue. It's at the heart.
Oh, 100%.
But, you know, again, it should be a no-brainer to say kids should not be viewing this, whether in person, meaning like a drag show like this, or electronically via a movie of some kind. And so for that reason, I do think there's a case to be made of, you know, you brought your kid to this, or you showed your kid something that they shouldn't have seen, and that's abuse. Yeah. And that's what should be said.
And another thing is like, kids are very monkey see, monkey do, you know. So it's like, you know, again, sex acts and beeholes. So what's to prevent a kid, again, like a 7-year-old kid who's like, oh yeah, mom or dad and dad or whoever, whatever the heck, took me to see this drag show where I saw all this stuff, these sex acts and beeholes and stuff like that. I'm gonna go do it at school. Yeah. And then you get kicked out of school. Well, now, what? Like, again, it affects the development, behavior, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, because this is normal. No, it's not. That's part of the problem too. It's affecting, again, the kid's development and thinking it's normal, and other. You then put it on other people's children who didn't take their kid to these things.
Or they show up to they just go, let's say, you know, go play in the playground with other people, and are talking to other kids about the stuff they've seen. And it's like, what do we really want to live in a culture, a society where kids are talking about, you know, where Tommy's talking to Timmy about going down to the local drag show and what he saw there? No, we don't want any of that. And it's just ridiculous to have that this is even a discussion. Yeah. It should be labeled as abuse, and no parent should be, like you said, there should be an age requirement. And whether that's 18 or 21, I think it needs to be somewhere. 18 or 21, at the youngest 18, probably 21. And anyway, it's just one of those things where it's like, the libertarian argument is when you're adult and when you're consenting. And again, that's the argument from a rights perspective of how the government treats you. That's really all that libertarianism is. It looks at how the government treats you. But that's adult. That's adult and consenting. And this is the big thing, although the left is trying to erode this, children cannot consent. Yeah. So why are you bringing children there? And anyway, and again, like you're saying, people are saying this is pretty on the nose. This is not kid friendly, and they're doing it anyway. And so again, I think this needs to either be looked at. I don't know if it'd be Supreme Court. I don't know if it would be a federal ban. I would definitely be for a state ban, like Florida saying none of that.
I think what possibly could happen is it'll take a state to say, hey, this is the requirement. People throw a fit about it. It then goes to, you know, the state Supreme Court, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Then goes, you know, through the process. And up, all the way up to the Supreme Court.
That happens,
which takes forever.
Or, you know, if it doesn't happen exactly like that, it'll just be a law where you've got to be whatever the age is, 18 or 21, for you to be admitted. And that'll be the law. And the winning message should be the sexualization of children, but also trafficking and things like that.
Yeah, there's so much.
There's so many pervs hanging around at stuff like this where kids can go missing and stuff.
Nothing good comes from these things,
right? And so I do think there needs to be something done The exact question is what state will do it, and it should be at least every state that calls itself red, and hopefully it'll spread where it's a bunch of states saying we're not for this. And maybe eventually the feds do something about it if the feds are swayed, but it's going to begin with in your own county, in your own state.
Yeah.
Don't let it happen.
Yeah.
So that's one. The other big story we wanted to go into had to do with since Elon Musk buying Twitter, there's been a whole lot of drops, meaning file drops about Twitter and things that they've done. And one article that we had found was from the New York Post, which was Biden admin was pushed to bar Twitter users for COVID disinformation, some files are showing. The Biden White House pressured Twitter to both elevate and suppress users based on their stance on COVID-19, ultimately censoring info that was true but inconvenient. I can't believe they would say that. That's so on the nose. To policymakers, according to the latest edition of the Twitter files revealed Monday. The coercion campaign during the pandemic began with the Trump administration, which asked Twitter to crack down on stories about panic buying and runs on grocery stores in the early days of the outbreak, but was stepped up under Biden, whose administration was focused on the removal of anti-vaxxer accounts, according to the Free Press reporter David Zweig. So basically, what I told you again in the prep for this was, this is not surprising. This is just the proof of kind of what a lot of us knew. A lot of us figured, okay, well, of course government's in bed with big tech. Of course stuff like this is going to continue. For example, in June 2021, hours after Biden publicly raged that social media companies were killing people for allowing purported vaccine misinformation to propagate, former New York Times reporter and noted vaccine doubter Alex Berenson was suspended from the site and was ultimately banned. I remember when Alex Berenson was suspended.
Yeah.
So it just comes down, okay, here's the proof. Here's the proof that the Biden House, the Biden White House specifically, but also just whatever you want to say, just the government, the agencies, the establishment is in bed with big tech. Again, it's on the news, censoring info that was true but inconvenient. And that's
inconvenient for the Democrats. It's not inconvenient for the American people.
Mm-hmm.
The American people needed to know some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, all of this stuff. But
yes.
Yeah, it's only inconvenient for the Democrats at the time. I mean, still is. But
and for the CDC, the WHO,
oh, yeah.
You name them. Twitter Files 9.0 reveal a web of social media surveillance censorship by not just the FBI and other agencies too. The latest and 9th installment of the Twitter Files, this is from WIOnews.com, installment of the Twitter Files, has uncovered a web of coordination between the tech giant and the U.S. government agencies. Releasing the latest installment on Christmas Eve, Substack writer Matt Taibbi claims that it goes beyond the FBI, which was acting as the doorman to a vast program of social media surveillance and censorship, encompassing agencies across the federal government from the State Department to the Pentagon to the CIA.
Nice.
Posting part of a screenshot of an email, Taibbi alleges that Twitter had so much contact with so many agencies that executives lost track. So, in the long series of tweets, he further claims that one of the Twitter's executives is ex-CIA. I have heard that at one point.
Yeah.
It was an open secret at Twitter that one of its executives was ex-CIA, which is why Chan referred to that executive's former employee. He also shared another screenshot as evidence in which there's a clear mention of this. The first Twitter executive abandoned any pretense to stealth and emailed that the employee used to work for the CIA, so that is Elvis's question being a reference to something else. So anyway, this again is just confirmation. We kind of knew this. We knew this was going on. Another one that I'm also going to have in the comments is going to be New York Post again. Latest Twitter files show CIA, FBI have spent years meddling in content moderation. And I'll just come out and say, I think that there needs to be arrests over this. There needs to be people that are put in handcuffs and taken out, because what it comes down to is...
But who arrests the government?
The government.
Yeah.
We're asking the government to be a referee of the bad referee.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there are elements of the government that would care about that. There are good people that are in there.
Oh, yeah,
It's small numbers, but there are good people that are in there. The question is, how do you get it done? I do think at least one move is Schedule F, which is what Trump has talked about. The firing of agents and bringing in his own people, or people that frankly care about the Constitution and the rule of law. And that will be a step to some of this happening. Because like you say, why would they do any of that now? They have no incentive to.
Yeah.
They're incentivized to pretend, oh, the house is not burning down. Why would we call the fire department? And that's what it is.
100%.
And so that's, if nothing else happens because of Elon buying Twitter, this is great. This is really good. It shows what's going on regarding the Twitter files. And I don't know what needs to happen with big tech. I do think alternatives need to continue to be built. I love the fact that Rumble is going. I love the fact that Locals is going. I think Truth Social, as immature and meaning like it's not been around very long as it is, hopefully it sticks around and grows and starts to be better. But Locals can have videos on it. It's not a bad alternative to YouTube. It's almost like a weird like hybrid of Facebook and YouTube. Rumble is pretty much a YouTube. And so there's ones out there. And Cozy TV is a streaming service, so there's different things that people can use. It's just that they're small and they're not very well funded. Big tech is the big and well funded area.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I don't know. This, I mean, again, it's just proof of what we already knew. It shouldn't really shock anybody except for the Dems that, just listen.
Are
to
surprised
CNN.
that it came out.
Are surprised that it came out and like, oh, what CNN said? Yeah, okay. CNN says a lot of things. CNN also said that, Joe Biden legitimately won the election. But hey, believe what you want. I don't know. I mean...
and that there's no signs of his cognitive decline.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. But...
the thing.
No, nobody's shocked by this, again, except for, like we said, the Dems, the hard left, And
I haven't seen this, but I'm sure a lot of them are saying, oh, that's disinformation from the Russians.
100%. Right. It's Russian disinformation. I mean, that's all we ever look at, 100%. I mean, but the question, all right, let's say it's not disinformation for a minute, bear with me, leftists, exactly. Let's just theoretically say that this conspiracy is true, right? Which is funny because a lot of these conspiracies turn out to be true.
6 months later.
Right, exactly. Right.
Between a conspiracy theory and a fact is about 6 months.
Exactly. So it's like, let's assume that all this is true, which, again, it is. But let's assume that it's true. What... Are you concerned about it? I mean, what do you do about it? I mean, that's not good that the government is literally paying big tech or just not even just throwing its weight around, even sometimes not even with money.
And that's the thing. That's one thing that Zuckerberg said on the Joe Rogan Experience was, I was approached by, I think it was the FBI or if not it was the DOJ, and was told what to do. And was
it's
told
not even money sometimes. It's just, again, throwing their weight around of like, hey, do this. It's like, oh, I mean, what do you tell the government?
Or giving them classified information that's like, why are you giving information about such and such? It's like, why would you do that with a social media company?
Exactly.
It's just really weird.
I mean, so it's like, if what do you do? Again, like you said, arrests, but again, how? And who's going to step up to make those? Trump for one in 2024, but can you wait that long? Personally, I don't think so. Like, because it's just going to happen again. I don't know. Something's got to happen here. I mean, this is not okay. And honestly, it's to an extent scary that you've just got the government throwing around its weight pretty much in broad daylight. People just don't want to, agree that the government can do bad things like this, I guess. I don't know. But I don't know. If the government can sit here and silence you on social media, there's so much other things that they can do too. They can stop you from many, many other things just because they don't like you.
And the model, I really think, in a lot of ways, is both China, Canada, and the UK. Like, for example, I was reading about the case in the UK with a comedian that made an offensive joke, and he was fined for hate speech and said, too bad, I refuse to pay. This is violating my not First Amendment, but my free speech right of what I should have. Because, again, he's like... Again, Britain didn't have a constitution. They have no First Amendment. But he's like, I still care about the ideals of free speech. I'm a free human being, or at least I should be. You're not going to fine me for a joke that y'all didn't like. And unfortunately, again, this is the model. The government then said, okay, they went to the bank and said, we're taking, I think it was 800 pounds.
Yeah.
And they gave it to them. So, I mean, that's the model. The model is that. And the other thing was, again, back to Canada, the whole trucker protest.
Yeah.
What did they start doing? They started freezing bank accounts because people were giving to the truckers. And then these people that were, not only even the truckers, people that were giving to the truckers, trying to support them and help them. They were, number one, the GoFundMes were disappearing or going away, and people weren't always getting their money back. Money that they had given, sometimes they were getting their money back. That's actually how it came out. Someone got money back, and they're like, why am I getting a refund from GoFundMe?
Yeah.
And they realized, oh, the GoFundMe for these truckers has been shut down. That's not even the model. The model, though, is, well, if you're going to try to give money, then we're going to freeze your bank account where you can't even, it's your money, but we're not going to allow you to give it.
Yep.
And that's the model for here. It's going to come down to, oh, you gave money to the DeSantis or the Trump campaign or the Larry Elder campaign. We don't like that. You know, you are contributing to fascism and Nazism, and we're going to stop that from happening.
Yep.
And that's the model. And it's coming down the pipe. You know, that's the issue. And how soon it'll be here, what it comes down to is standing against that. And as we were saying in the prep, don't wait for Trump to come in and solve all your problems. Don't wait for Elder to come in and solve all your problems, or DeSantis, anyone.
Yeah.
You can vote, but you've also got to do more than just vote. You've got to vote in multiple elections. Who your governor is matters. Who your sheriff is matters. Who your state reps are and state senate
AG,
matters.
everything.
Your AGs really matters. They set a lot of the election law. But not only that, you have a lot of say in your community. You can get involved.
100%.
You can do things. And
100%.
so that out of the way, that is the long-term solution, is people saying, you know what, there's not cavalry with a bugle coming over the hill. We're the ones that have got to do something about this. To finally come on to, again, further proof that the cavalry's not coming over the hill, let's look at, the people on the horses, or at least they should be. One thing I think about a lot is the time that Caligula tried to set a horse as a government official, the Roman Emperor Caligula, and it's like, I would probably take a Clydesdale over some of the
100%.
people that are in Congress right now.
100%.
This is from thehill.com. 5 highlights from the $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill Congress just passed. This is trillion with a T.
Highlights?
Yeah, so this is just some of it.
Highlights.
5 highlights. This isn't even the full extent.
Aren't highlights supposed to be good?
Well, there's
These are
that.
deadlights.
Yeah, or I don't know what the opposite of a highlight would be. Red flags.
There you go. Yeah.
Defense.
5 red flags.
Yeah, defense and non-defense spending. Oh boy, the omnibus put roughly 773 billion with a B.
Still bad,
toward non-defense discretionary spending, compared to 858 billion for defense spending. So
What in the world is
non-defense versus defense? Somewhere in here, I'm sure, is the IRS pay raises of,
That's true.
y'all do such a good job and serve our country so much. We all love the IRS. So here you go. And also, heck, FBI, I'm sure, got some of that. The FBI, which definitely does not go to people's houses in the middle of the night and put people in jail for showing up to a peaceful protest for people that love their country.
Yeah, it doesn't raid people's houses in Mar-a-Lago or anything.
Or for being a pro-life activist. I mean, I've covered that on The Fog and the Whirlwind. That's one thing that they've done. The FBI will investigate. One thing that was an interesting thing was a case that was closed down while Trump was still president that had to do with a pro-life activist that was out. And then a year later, he gets a knock on his door and he's like, why? That was closed down a year ago. Why are y'all investigating me? Well, it's been reopened. It's crazy. So anyway, so somewhere in there, I'm sure, is a pay raise for those people.
Yep.
Those people that are as un-American as American gets. Negotiators say defense funding baseline saw about a 10% increase. 40 trillion in debt. We have an increase in spending. While the non-defense baseline saw roughly half that jump. 5% is still a lot when not factored in the veterans funding. The one thing I might be okay with.
Right. I was gonna say, like, we do our veterans so bad.
Which depends on how it's implemented. I'm just saying. I mean, if it's to the VA, it's like, okay, who is being paid at the VA and what's being done.
Even still,
but
I mean, at least, again, like you said, at least if it was like, to the VA, whatever, you could at least possibly get behind it. I mean, I don't know.
They get a raw deal.
That's a rant for another time, but yeah, we definitely do our veterans so badly.
The Republicans backing the package say the bill have touted that gap as a check on domestic spending by Democrats. Oh, y'all really showed them, didn't you?
Yep.
Only 1.7 trillion. Yeah, this is literally the meme.
Only.
It's a meme. It's a meme about how the Republicans are like, oh, we've put their spending in check. They're literally saying this gap is a check on domestic spending by Democrats while shoring up defense operations at an increase higher than the pace of inflation.
They wanted $2 trillion. We got it.
We got it
3
down to 1.7.
Yeah, like we're a great negotiators. You're not.
We cut 300 billion out. Really?
How about you just stand firm and say no?
None of this at all. Which hit while shoring up on defense operations at an increased rate higher than the pace of inflation. So it is higher than the pace of inflation, which hit an annual rate of 7.1% last month. That's last month. It was more like 8 or 9 earlier this year. The world's greatest military will get the funding increase that it needs, outpacing inflation. Meanwhile, non-defense, non-veteran spending will come in below the rate of inflation for a real dollar cut. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican of Kentucky, said.
So I have figured out what we need to do about inflation. We need Tom Brady on this.
Oh, how does that
deflate?
I like it.
We need him to deflate this inflation because man. This stuff is getting way too inflated. We need some deflation.
Brady 2024. Deflate that.
Exactly. If he can do that, hey, we're good. I mean, all is forgiven for the deflate case.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he was right all along.
Right, exactly. Maybe we do need to start deflating a lot of things.
He had the right idea.
Man.
Ukraine. Oh, boy.
Yay!
Congress greenlit about 45 billion. Didn't we just give 40-something billion?
Yeah.
Not just. It was earlier this year. In emergency funding to support Ukraine nearly a year after Russia invaded the country. That includes about 19.8 billion to arm and equip Ukraine and European allies. So some of this didn't even go to Ukraine. It went to European allies. 12.9 billion for economic assistance and 6.2 billion for the Department of Defense. So that's I assume
this is why
our own Department of Defense. Maybe it's to their Department of Defense. I don't know. It doesn't really state. I would imagine their department.
This is why I want term limits, because in the House and the Senate and everything is because then these people can go back into the real world and feel what they did.
Yes.
Because they're not going to feel any of this, let's be honest. Most of them are going to get, voted back in. Not most of them, but, a lot of them are going to get voted back in, and be, lifetime politicians, etc. Never have to feel a single thing with this. We're going to have to feel it, for sure. We're young enough.
Our kids, our grandkids.
But the big thing is, our kids, from whenever we have some, they're going to feel it. Our grandkids, and other people's grandkids, they're all going to feel this stuff.
You actually shouldn't have any because of global warming.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
climate change.
Right.
Listen to AOC.
Yeah, AOC, yeah. Yeah, global warming has, made me think about if I should have kids or not. Cool.
Yeah, good.
Great.
Good AOC.
Yeah, you really don't need... Yeah. Again, I kind of agree with you on that, to an extent, but not for the reasons you might think. But
I don't want you taking it to a direction.
Exactly, but... I don't know. This is... Oh, man, That's one of the big things for term limits, honestly, for me, or arguments for term limits of now you got to go into the real world and see what you did. And you tell me if it was good or not.
Yes. And I'm telling you right now, the thought popped in my head. I am writing the head of the RNC. I'm writing letters to my representatives about this specific bill saying, just as citing it as proof of this is out of control, this is crazy. What is going on with the RNC? Yeah. Why are these people not being fired? They should be fired. This is, again, the Republican Party will not change until people that do stuff like this get calls from the RNC saying, well, this is a problem. Yeah. You can run again in 2026 or whatever, but you're not running as a Republican.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
You're going to have to run as an independent. You can go over to the Dems if you want, but you're not running with the Republican Party. This 100%. Is against our values. There's zero chance of that happening with the current leadership. And Mitch McConnell, his statement is just ridiculous. I was trying to, I would have read that, in the voice of whatever sound a turtle would make. But, I don't know what sounds they make. A frog has a kind of, ribbit, but I don't know what a turtle does. Or I could have read it just really slow. The world's great. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just fill you with confidence? No, it does not. So we get McCarthy, we get McConnell, and here's the thing. I remember when hearing that McConnell was put back in his position of authority, and same with McCarthy, and I just thought, okay, then nothing's really going to change.
Yeah.
And this is proof. This is proof. Here we have the justification for why, like you say, oh, we cut it by 300 billion. It's like, no, you should have cut it by 1 trillion or more.
Yep.
This is ridiculous that this is this high, 1.7 trillion.
Or just stop spending.
Yes, stop it in general.
Just don't.
Like we said in the prep, let the government shut down. Let it.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. We are spending out of control. We're at 40 trillion. This is ridiculous.
Because who does that affect? It doesn't affect my paycheck if the government shuts down.
No.
You know, it actually
doesn't
it affects those
really-
people in Congress.
It doesn't, again, not long term. I mean,
Not long-term, no,
even
yeah.
if the government was shut down for a year, they would be okay.
Oh, yeah.
I can guarantee that they would make it.
Yeah.
Or, heck, if they say, oh, we got to reopen it, let's use that as an incentive. Okay.
Exactly.
Vote right.
Exactly.
Vote right.
Exactly.
Actually vote right. And so that was one thing I liked about Trump. One of the best things he said. He said to Chuck, I'll shut down the government. I will until you give me the money for the border wall. We got to secure our border. That's how the Republicans need to negotiate.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to shut down the government? Cut the bill. Cut the
Exactly.
bill. That's what they need to say.
Figure something out.
Cut the bill. No more money to Ukraine. Stuff like that. They can use these as bargaining chips.
Or a lot
And
less money to you. Ukraine.
Whatever.
I mean, like this is ridiculous. I mean,
So the
What?
White House asked Congress for $37.7 billion in additional aid for Ukraine last month. The jump in funding comes as some conservatives have become critical of the aid, raising concerns about how much funding would fare in a divided Congress next year.
so they asked for 37 billion, and we said, "Hey,
We'll meet you in the
give
middle at 45.
40. Nice negotiation."
The White House asked Congress for 37, and it looks like we gave them 45. So not only did the Republicans not cut the spending, they increased it by about 11.3 billion.
Josh, I want $10.
Why?
Can you meet me in the middle with like 15?
Yes.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Exactly.
Great.
I like that.
That's how negotiating works.
That's
Awesome.
right.
Noted.
I won't give you 10, but I will give you 20.
All right, hey, works for me, man.
Why not 30?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Ukrainian President Zelensky addressed Congress in a historic speech earlier this week, something that we want to cover in the next episode probably. I
Yeah.
legitimately want to hear what was said
Yeah.
because Ukraine and Russia, no matter how you feel about it, is news. It's important
yeah,
to know
100%.
about. I mean, it's about NATO, frankly. I want to do an episode about that. Earlier this week, this was during Christmas week, so it was last week, becoming the first foreign leader to address Congress during wartime since 1941 when Winston Churchill came to the nation's capital. Oh, okay, so between Liz Cheney being Abraham Lincoln and Zelensky being Winston Churchill, this world is more and more delusional. And
Zelensky won Time Person of the Year, right?
he did.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow.
Awesome.
Well, it couldn't have gone to a more deserving recipient.
Right.
That says something about time.
Should have gone to Biden.
Yeah, exactly. He should have gone to Biden or Fetterman. During the speech, it would have been amazing if he got up and
The
praised.
Eagles are better than the Eagles.
If he got up and praised the Rolling Stone for honoring him, that would have been really good.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
like, no, it's time.
Time. Yeah.
That would have been amazing. I need to make
You're as old as the Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
But hey.
During the speech, Zelensky thanked the U.S. for the assistance allocated so far, but also pleaded for further. Of course, enough is never enough. Pleaded for further aid to fend off Russia's ongoing attacks. Your money is not charity, Zelensky said. It's an investment in the global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way. I can't think of two bigger reasons not to support him. Democracy, global
Now, are you supporting
security.
Russia?
Yes.
Okay.
Chad face. Yes.
Yeah. No, they're both.
No, I do not look that good with my shirt
Russia,
off. Putin
yeah.
looks good.
I don't want to see
the fact that picture is even on the internet is like, who took this picture? Like, why is it's so weird.
But no, this is ridiculous. You know, I'm not for Russia, of course, but I'm not for, Ukraine. I don't want Ukraine to be obliterated, but at the same time, this is your war, not ours. Just leave us out of it. So that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not really for Russia, and I'm not really for Ukraine either.
And we're definitely not for this country being the world's policeman and or being the world's piggy bank. Piggy bank, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I'm not here for the lending stuff. Like, I don't know, if we're gonna lend anything, why don't we just lend them, missiles and stuff like that? I guess if you really want to get involved here, actually stop giving them money that you don't like. I'd rather give somebody things like, that they can use instead. Well, again, people can use money, but if I don't know where the money's going, I want to know where that money's going to.
So I have good news for you.
Yay.
You know how disappointed everyone was with Mike Pence?
Yes.
It'll never happen again because the Electoral Count Act, which is also in this bill,
What the heck is that?
reforms the 1887 Electoral Count Act to clarify the vice president cannot overturn election results when Congress counts electoral college votes.
Was that in the bill? Nice.
So, no matter what, the vice president can't challenge it or vote to not certify it. No matter what. Based on this bill...
That's because the Dems got scared a couple years ago. Interesting.
And 18 Republicans are like, yeah, that sounds good.
18 establishment Republicans.
Yeah.
Republicans. Yeah. Rhinos.
The legislation was drafted in response to the events. This is what you literally just said.
Tell me this isn't all planned. I mean, like...
How? Yeah. How could it not be?
How is it not planned? Like, and see, this is the thing. I'm pretty sure this bill came in at like 1 a.m. and it's like, you know, this big. So like it's like, oh, we got to vote now or the government shuts down. Okay, let it shut down. I'm reading all of this. I guarantee you, I'll give benefit of the doubt to like 18 of these Republicans, or 9 of them, I guess, maybe 9. You know what? 6.
Half.
6. I'll give benefit of the doubt to 6 of these Republicans.
A third of them.
Yeah, that they didn't see this part in the bill because again, it was 1 a.m. They're like, oh yeah, okay, so and they probably asked, what's the gist of it? This was not told.
Money to Ukraine.
They're like, yeah, sure, I'll sign it. Yeah, so. I'll say that like 6 Republicans possibly didn't know about this, but this is, people have to be given time. Just because the government might shut down, whoop-de-doo, that's important. Stuff like this is important, and some people might say, no, it's not that important. It's really not that big of a deal because, 2020 was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Okay, once in a lifetime that can happen again. Just saying.
That's not once in a lifetime.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, oh, it happened one time.
Like
it
the
can happen again.
The word that was overused in 2020, unprecedented.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, that this is ridiculous. It's like, I don't know. The fact that we're not taking time to read these bills or we're pushing them through to where people don't have time. Tell me it's not planned.
That's another thing. Like one thing that would be amazing for Congress, this is an idea, is requirements to read the bill.
That's and I think Rand Paul has talked about that.
Either him or his dad.
Yeah.
His dad would actually read. He was meticulous. If he hadn't read it, he'd vote no as default. Just no.
Yeah.
But he was meticulous about...
Even if the bill was really good, too. That's the thing.
Well, he was just like, I haven't read it. What if there's something that they snuck in there that's bad? And this is what we're seeing.
Right.
So the legislation, this is from the Hill, was drafted in response to the events of January the 6th, 2021, when then President Trump he didn't even there wasn't even, we don't know what Vice President Pence would have done because of the Capitol events, insurrection, riot, whatever you want to call it, was not an insurrection.
What does that say right there?
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
President Trump urged, we don't even know what Pence is going to do.
Yep.
Trump urged then Vice President Mike Pence to block the certification of Joe Biden's victory by Congress. What was it you were pointing out? 18 GOP senators.
No, this one.
I'll go into that in a second.
Yeah.
18 GOP senators voted with Democrats to pass the bill as part of the larger funding package. Again, they're trying to ride the upside. And what has been seen as a notable rebuke of the former president who has argued for the 1887 Act to remain untouched. Other GOP senators who voted against the overall package have also thrown support behind the electoral count reforms, including Senator Rand Paul, who endorsed the bill in an op-ed ahead of the vote. In 2021, the Theater Act went too far and culminated in a mob disrupting the joint session of Congress to certify the presidential election, Paul wrote in the Louisville Courier Journal, framing it as a necessary piece of legislation to protect the Electoral College.
It does.
So basically, I guess it sounds like Paul actually supports that legislation, saying if, for example, his point is if Pence did go against that, that's kind of like saying what South Carolina, all the states are voting for is null and void. And so therefore he actually is for this vote because the Electoral College needs to be what goes, not what the vice president does. I don't know if I go with that because I think I would like to know
especially in the case of 2020.
What the vice president has to say.
Right.
Like I want to know what the vice president's thoughts are, what he has to say, and also what no one is talking about is if Mike Pence were to block the certification of the election, what would have happened. And because one thing that Cruz was asking for, which is I think completely reasonable, is give us 2 weeks to investigate. If that's what would have happened, to me, it's no problem. I mean, it's no problem if we're talking about
you're not causing anything. Really.
Obama being elected against Romney. If that had happened then, if Biden, VP Biden had voted and therefore things were put on 2 weeks hold, that would have freaked a lot of people out. But it's 2 weeks hold. Whereas here in 2020/2021, early 2021, what does it hurt to have a 2-week investigation? What happens there? So anyway, this was blocked. The next bullet point is also our favorite topic ever: healthcare and government programs.
Which sucks in America anyway, but hey.
Democrats have repeatedly acknowledged the bill doesn't include nearly as much funding for domestic programs as they wanted. This is why I think AOC probably voted no.
Probably.
In as much as they wanted in their last best chance at molding government funding while they still hold control of both chambers. But the party has also celebrated some wins. A little of investments in healthcare and research includes $47.5 billion, still less than what was sent to Ukraine.
Research.
The first time. For the National Institutes of Health, $9.2 billion for the Centers for Disease Control. So CDC gets $9.2 billion.
Yay.
Yeah, we know they need more money.
And we love the CDC.
And $950 million for the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Democrats have also pointed to a $13.4 billion increase for the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, a boost of $28.5 billion for child nutrition programs. New Section 8 housing choice vouchers, as they say, would support over 11,000 additional low-income households, as well as a boost to maximum Pell Grant award.
All right, and all that sounds good. Like it sounds great to be charitable. Like, hey, we're creating 11,000. Homes? Section 8 homes?
That's what it looked like, yeah.
11, yeah. So 11,000 additional low-income households. Yeah, okay, so that's great. That sounds great. But the problem is it's also creating other issues on the other side for people that are barely making it as is and struggling. You're forcing people to basically give out of their pocket. They can't afford to give out of their pocket. Yep. There are people out there that would love to, donate and all this type of stuff, but they can't afford to donate. Sure, if you have the ability to give to others that are less fortunate than you, then sure, do it. No, but nobody should force you to do that. If you want to be selfish, I guess, sure, be selfish. But I'm all for charity. But again, this stuff is forcing you to basically become a charity, even if you can't afford to be the charity.
Yes. You are not charitable by sending a tax collector and forcing someone to give.
Right.
It should be a voluntary thing. And again, it's one thing to have some basic net, but we are so much above a basic net.
Right.
And this is just insane.
And that's kind of the issue that it is the issue is that I have with a lot of the left is the government is not the answer to homelessness. It's not the answer to poverty. What's the answer to poverty and homelessness? Honestly, it's people. It's not, institutions. It's definitely not the government. It's people and what can your community do? What can I do? And then again, that person sets off a reaction, et cetera, et cetera. What can you do? Not, again, don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So don't ask what you can do, what your community can do for you. Ask what you can do for your community. Same thing. I don't know. Your government is not the charity here, and I don't know. You can't force people to just take things out of their pocket and be like, here, even though I need this still, here, you take it. I don't know. It sounds great, but it's also affecting and causing other issues in the process too.
So apparently also shortly before it was actually passed, the last minute tweaks, it was passed on Thursday, and the same day it was passed, they also tweaked it.
Nice.
There were 8 amendments adopted that include proposals aimed at allowing proceeds from assets seized from sanctioned Russian oligarchs to be put toward Ukraine aid, a measure aimed at strengthening protections for breastfeeding workers, and another dealing with compensation for 9/11 victims. So yeah, there's something having to do with strengthening protections for breastfeeding workers, and then dealing compensation for 9/11 victims, which we're still dealing with. And Congress also approved an amendment to provide for the continuation of pay and benefits for Navy Lieutenant Ridge Alconis. According to Deseret News, his pay was cut while serving a 3-year sentence in prison in Japan after a car accident that killed 2 citizens. So this guy's in jail. We're continuing to pay him.
Yeah. But see, this is the stupid stuff. This is the stupid stuff that they throw in these bills.
Why are we paying someone while they're in jail?
Well, why are we worried about
US military?
We've got a whole spending bill here. But by the way, we're going to toss something completely irrelevant. I'm not saying it's necessarily not an issue or whatever, because I'm not really knowledgeable on it. But hey, in this spending bill, we're going to throw in the protection of breastfeeding workers. Like, what does that got to do with spending? That, like, at least make it relevant. I'm fine if y'all want to pass a bill that protects stuff. That's fine. I don't really care like that. I'm not arguing that that's not like an important issue. I'm arguing that that's not an issue for spending. Like, that's stupid. This is the stupid stuff. That's like, hey, I want a ham and cheese sandwich, and you sit there and gave me, some extra turkey. It's like, no, I asked for ham and cheese. Like, not that. What is that? Like, what does that got to do with spending?
2 things. This is interesting. The omnibus also included legislation introduced by Josh Hawley, the Republican of Missouri, that seeks to prohibit the use of TikTok on government phones and devices. However, the bill has already made it into the package prior to the vote on Thursday afternoon. The TikTok bill was added after the Senate unanimously approved the bill earlier this month, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi recently expressed support for passing the legislation. So basically, I read that and it's like, we, the government, care about ourselves. Yeah. We're not going to allow ourselves.
But this also affects government workers, too.
It does, but it's like, if the government is supposed to serve the people, like, shouldn't we do something against the CCP or against TikTok 100%. Or against TikTok the business? But instead it's like, well, we're going to make it illegal for you to have that app on your phone if you're a government worker. It's like, okay.
But then the question becomes, what? Also, this is another bill that, like, it's not a spending thing, so it needs to go.
That should have been its own,
something else.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Because
so, like, also, this just proves my point.
That would have been an even bigger headline.
Exactly.
This is a side note in a big bill.
And this is
This should have been a big thing that's going out. Like, hey, and it sounds like it may have been, but he incorporated it into this.
So, I'm not necessarily opposed to this, like that.
It's
that
like
part. But
the first little step.
But I'm entirely, like, oh, see, this is how they get people too. Oh, you're opposed to the bill, but it includes this, and this, and this. That's not even related to what the bill's like. The spending bill. That's not related to spending. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm opposed to the other big stuff.
The other thing apparently is it included funding for ICE and the DHS, which is why AOC voted against it. So she said in a statement, "I campaigned on a promise to my constituents to oppose additional." This is AOC talking.
Yeah.
To oppose additional expansion and funding for ICE and DHS, particularly in the absence of long overdue immigration reform. For that reason, as well as the dramatic increase in defense spending, that's the other thing that I'm sure she opposed, which exceeds even President Biden's request. That's right, I voted no on today's omnibus. Okay, so that was why
At least she stands, like, firm on most of the things she says, I guess.
Some of them. I mean, again, I guess
I don't like her, but
I can respect that as much as I don't like it, because our principles are against each other.
100%.
But that's at least something that can be said. Hey, she holds to her principles more than Republicans hold to
100%. Which
they say they hold to.
I guess you could learn something from AOC. Wow. Wow. Let's start tracking how many times I say that in 2023.
Yeah, we should. No kidding.
Man, oh man.
On a little board where you
We
should. That actually would be kind of cool.
How many times I said, at least you can learn something from AOC.
That'd be funny.
Oh, boy.
The House voted Friday, this is from CNN, to pass a massive $1.7 trillion spending bill that would fund critical government operations, again, critical government operations across federal agencies and provide emergency aid for Ukraine and natural disaster relief. The bill will next go to President Joe Biden to be signed into law. Of course, he's not going to veto this. Yeah. Of course, it's going to be signed into law. I mean, number one, I don't think he has any idea what he's signing.
He died. No.
It's just kind of like, oh, an autograph. I wonder if they do that legitimately. If someone's like, "Hi, Mr. President, it's so good to meet you. Can I have your autograph?" And then he just signs it, and then they walk out. We got the bill passed.
But that needs to be a bill. That needs to be a bill of how bills are formed. Of you can only put stuff in a bill that actually relates to the bill.
Yes.
Again, what is breastfeeding?
Some kind of like a relevancy clause.
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like
something.
that.
There needs to be something there of like, again, what does protecting breastfeeding workers have to do with spending? It doesn't. Again, not saying it's not important.
Because when I hear omnibus, I hear what they say, which is it's a government, strictly speaking, government spending bill. Like you say, what does that have to do with anything?
And what does TikTok have to do with spending? It doesn't.
It does
I'm not saying it's not important, because it is. You know, that like we need to do something like another show on that for sure. But like that's not important to that bill. You know, it's not relevant to that bill.
Again, some kind of a relevancy clause would be good, and also, like I say, required reading. You have to read this before you know
100%.
what you're voting on. But again, even if we didn't have that, if the media would honestly report on, if we did that, then if we had the media honestly report on, well, this person has said, and we know for a fact they have read the bill, this person has not, at least then it would come out who was reading the bill and who wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
That hardly is even talked about. All it comes out is how they vote.
Yeah.
And so anyway, before we do wrap up, and you can talk about this more if you want, but I'm going to try to pull up the list of the Republicans, because I had this pulled up somewhere, that voted along with this. And again, what it comes down to is...
What was it, 68 to 29 in the Senate,
right? Yes. Yeah. And so I'm going to pull up that list, and it's not shocking. This should be the exception where everyone's like, what? Why? But people just shake their heads and say, well, it's not a surprise.
And that's a problem, though.
Nobody is surprised, and... that's got to change. There will not be change for this country unless, again, to me, it starts at the RNC. Once that changes, then the politicians get the call, what you're doing is not acceptable, you're out. Heck, even if it's not that the RNC chair is good, even if it's the RNC chair saying, you're making us look bad, like I'm going to get voted out, they're coming for me. This is a big incentive in business, is it's either my job or yours.
Yeah.
It's either me as the manager and you're an employee under me, you did something unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's if I don't fire you, then they're coming after me.
100%.
And that's what's got to happen. It's like the RNC chair needs to say, if I don't take you out of the party, I'm getting out.
Yeah, and I think that's something, honestly, you know, you can't out left the left, and I'm not trying to become like the left at all. But as far as the left goes, at least the left to an extent.
Okay, ma'am.
At least the left to an extent has a backbone and knows what they stand for and doesn't really back down from what they stand for. I mean, doesn't back down from what they stand for. You know, the Republicans... there are a lot out there, like the MAGA Republicans, that do know what they stand for and won't back down from that. But the problem is, you have all these rhinos, 18 of them in the Senate, that back down from what they stand for. You know, the Democrats have to. I mean, Republicans. My bad. The Republicans need to come together and at least have a backbone for what you stand for and stop backing down. I mean, that's how the Democrats have at least made change. Some see it negatively, some see it positively. Of course, we see it negatively. But, you know, again, that's how the Democrats have created a change, because they've had a backbone. If the Republicans want to see a change and just stop complaining, here's an idea. Come up with a backbone. Stop backing down from your opinions. I mean, not just your opinions, your values and everything else.
Convictions.
You know, exactly. So stop backing down. Like, actually come up with good arguments. Say no. And go from there, you know. And then when you say no, come up with other alternatives. Not necessarily bipartisan alternatives, but your alternative. You know, I think bipartisanship at this point, to an extent, I mean, because things are so far left or so far right, I think bipartisanship, to an extent, should be thrown out the window.
It's not even far right, but it's far left and centrist and actually... conservative or limited government is what it comes down to. Like, I agree with you. I think the whole bipartisan thing from the beginning has been overrated. Yeah. It should be, no, this is the right way.
What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And I mean,
country's going to go.
And you either vote the way you see right and the way you see wrong. I mean, I don't know. But Republicans, again, this is, man, we really should keep track of this on in 2023 on how many times I say this. But I think Republicans could learn from Democrats to an extent on they don't back down.
The methods,
not Not
Yeah.
the tactics of, let's let trans people into the Republican Party. No, that's something you should stand on of no. That's not how that works. You know, sure, you can vote Republican, but you're not going to run as a Republican because it's not that's not us. You know, so I don't know. The RNC and just Republicans, you know, people that run as Republican in general, they can learn from the Democrats in the sense of at least they don't back down from their values and their beliefs. I don't know.
So a list, there's 9, and this article shows 7 of the 9. So it looks to me that there's 9 representatives, and then there are 9 senators. And so of the 9, here's 7 of them.
Okay.
Take notes, people. Fred Upton of Michigan. This is a Republican.
That doesn't shock me, though.
Liz Cheney of Wyoming. Big
That
shock
doesn't
there.
shock me.
I should have said Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Adam Kinzinger and here's another one. Adam Kinzinger and Rodney Davis of Illinois. So there we got all 9. Then here we go. There's just 2 of them are from the same state. So to reverse, Adam Kinzinger and Rodney Davis of Illinois, Chris Jacobs and John Katko of New York, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Jaime Herrera Butler of Washington State, and Steve Womack of Arkansas. So these are Republicans that said, you know what, when I look at this $1.7 trillion bill, which does have a provision having to do with TikTok and apparently funds ICE and the DHS, but other than that is a big pile of garbage. The thing about ICE and the DHS, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like, Biden has them standing down where they're letting people come across this border, even though, they have Harris come out and say, don't come. But what is seriously happening? Nothing seriously happening on the border.
No.
And so, these are the Republicans that voted. And again, Cheney was not a surprise, and neither was Upton. But I've heard bad things about Adam Kinzinger too.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's not it's just like, who are these people and why are they still in the party? And nothing's going to change.
Lindsey Graham's not there, but you know.
Well, this is House.
Oh,
So
this is
Senate.
House. Oh,
Senate,
okay.
I could about guarantee you. Senate,
Oh yeah, Lindsey Graham's probably there.
Because otherwise
Okay.
he'd be under fire. Like, why did Lindsey Graham? Like, this would be the left. Far right extremist Lindsey Graham refuses to vote. That's not happening. So of course he voted for it. So anyway, lack of leadership, and it's just pitiful. Yeah, here we go. These are more House Republicans. We need to find a list of the ones in the Senate, but nothing's really going to change until the party changes.
Right,
and
exactly.
You said this earlier, and it's dead on. The party will change when the constituency changes.
Exactly.
That's what will actually happen.
Like, we need a backbone at this point. I mean, I don't know. Just, again, at least I can say the Democrats hold true to their values, even though I disagree wholeheartedly with them, but at least they hold true to their values.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, there's certain little areas where it's like, whatever. But
Yeah, so to repeat what you said earlier, Senate passed the measure by 68 to 29.
Okay.
So, number one, those odds are just sloppy. I mean, it's just huge.
It's ridiculous.
But anyway, that was huge. So we would like to hear your thoughts. We'd like to hear your comments, and if you have suggestions for future topics, we'll go into them. We do want to talk about TikTok and the things they've been going through. We do want to talk about the speech that Zelensky gave to the House.
Yeah.
That will be important to cover. And we've got other topics for the future. So thank you again for tuning in to Zen Nation. Hope that everyone has a good evening. I'm Josh.
I'm Nathan.
Everyone take care.